Twice. And we're live, all right. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks today on this feast of St. James, patron of our archdiocese. Bless us that as we gather together, we may open our hearts to receive your graces and continue to discern your will. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Holy Spirit. Well, I'm going to switch between English and...
We've got people coming in.
Excellent. I'm going to... Wonderful. I'm going to switch between English and Spanish as we go, just to allow for Carlos. Like this. At this point, I think we have done this enough times that I don't need to explain how it goes, but should probably start by introducing Elijah Morgan. Yes, Elijah Morgan. Elijah works for the chancery. I don't know your title. I'm sorry.
No worries. Hello, everyone. I'm Elijah Morgan. I'm the Director of Planning and Mission Effectiveness for the Archdiocese of Seattle, which basically means my work is all partners in the gospel all the time. So I'm just kind of going out and trying to make use of the beautiful summer weather and steal a little bit of the fun that our liaisons have by getting out, getting into different parish families, meeting with folks, and just kind of hearing how things are going on the ground. So I thank you all for letting me come out and join you tonight.
And you guys know Jason, who is our liaison.
Yeah, I've been here. Some of you guys probably may not have met me, but I've been here. Jason Stolberg, I'm the Parish Family Liaison for this region. I've been here, I think, twice early on, but not for a town hall. So I've not been here for the town hall because it just timing just didn't work out. I'm happy that it finally did work out where I could come out here for a town hall. But I'm the Peninsula region is technically my title, although it actually goes much further than that now. I also have families down in Lacey and Yelm and Olympia, Shelton, and one all the way down in East Vancouver, Camas. So I'm the champion driver, I think, for our team.
So ellos dos trabajan por la oficina del obispo. ¿Has conocido a Jason? Jason es nuestro representativo del arzobispo a nosotros y de nosotros al arzobispo. Y Elijah trabaja en la oficina de, no sé cómo se dice development, pero los planes por el programa de Partners in the Gospel. So, ellos están aquí para contestar preguntas y ofrecer presencia y oír lo que nosotros tenemos para ofrecer. So before jumping into questions and whatnot, we'll offer a little bit of update on things so far, and in the Parish Family, and then Jason in Partners in the Gospel. Our last time here, I want to say, was it pre or post heart attack when we were here? I know. I apologize for putting you on the spot on that one. I think it was pre-heart attack when we were last here. So I want to say pre-heart attack, PHA. So, so that would probably be January-ish when we last got together. Since then, we've gone through the liturgical season. We finished confirmations and first communions and OCIA. We have gotten through the whole liturgical year. We still have the rest of the liturgical year, but the big feast days and whatnot. And of course, we went through the joys of discovering what it means to make sacrifices and changes in the moment of health crisis. Which, by the way, I do want to particularly give credit to our community here because. Obviously, it hits you guys the hardest in the moment when suddenly it's like, okay, our priest is quite frankly struck down, and we're not sure what's going to happen next or how it's going to go. And you guys rallied particularly well in first caring for Father Ed in the moment of it, and then I think it was the week before Ash Wednesday when everything kind of went down, and we had to sort of mobilize all of this communication and all of this back and forth of the schedule's changed. Everything's going to be different, and it affected everyone across everywhere, but I think it's at different points we were really emailing and getting things going back and forth. So I want to offer kudos and thank you guys particularly for that. And then when Father Ed came back, the sort of mobilizing around providing for care and for food, and again adapting our schedule in first our guest priests and then easing Father back until he's been back at 100%. Estoy ofreciendo especialmente gracias por todo la flexibilidad de la comunidad, especialmente durante estos cambios, durante el tiempo de las dificultades medicamentos, gracias, del Padre Ed. Y también que hemos cumplido todo, aparte de las dificultades de estos momentos, hemos cumplido todas las diferentes celebraciones de confirmación y primera comunión, de RCIA, de Pascua y todo. Y después de todo de esto, hemos tenido un cambio de empleados con el Garth se va para trabajar en otras partes. So, hoy en día, ahora mismo no tenemos alguien para guiarnos por los programas de formación en la fe, so, primera comunión, confirmación, OCIA. So, estamos usando o pidiendo ayuda por todos los que están ofreciendo por voluntad sus posiciones como líderes, como John O'Donnell, Basilio, y todos que están ayudando con esos programas. Y todavía no tenemos planes, no hemos empezado planes en tratando recibir, no recibir, es to attract, to try to get a new faith formation director. So, hoy en día estamos planeando simplemente para los programas, pero probablemente casi más al fin del verano vamos a empezar en los esfuerzos para ofrecer advertencias de la oportunidad de trabajar en esa posición. You guys know that our faith formation director, Garth, finished his time with us as an employee at the end of May. He was our faith formation director. He's now working for the archdiocese in their youth program. And we are going to be advertising for that position. It's going to move from what it was full-time to half-time. We realized that the full-time position wasn't serving us super well as something that was bearing fruit for what a full-time position would do, and it didn't make sense to try to replace that. So we're going to be half-time, but having someone basically be sort of the air traffic controller of the different programs. So, which is, you know, I don't know that John O'Donnell necessarily needed, John O'Donnell and company needed a staff member necessarily to oversee, but at the same time we are seeing the gaps, particularly with no one in that position where we need someone to be communicating or chasing down paperwork or doing that pieces. And right now a lot of that is me, so that's slowing things down quite a bit, not because other people are falling short, but because I can't give it that time. But we are putting a lot of work into trying to create plans for different programs and put that together. So faith formation is taking up a lot of our time right now, as is the Parish Family Advisory Council. Did we talk about that, by the way, at any point in any of our last meetings? Does that term mean anything to any of you guys? That's fair. So the Parish Family Advisory Council is, colloquially, it might be best to call it a super council. So it's one council that's supposed to sort of advise the priest on the needs of the whole parish family and receive input from the local leadership to give that to Father as well. And we're supposed to create this thing and begin meetings and whatnot. Yes?
They can't hear you down here.
Okay. Well, I don't have a lot there. If you want to grab a microphone, I'll be happy to use that.
Move closer. We can sort of all...
Ed, why don't you grab the microphone?
Tammy's got a mic.
No, I think it's just your position.
The mic's not going to help because it echoes.
Okay.
I'll trade
the mic
places
doesn't
with
help.
you.
Okay.
So you can talk back.
Maybe
Okay.
just
So
that.
why don't you guys just pull back? Because then I can talk this way.
But if you sit here.
You want me to go back? Because
If you sit here,
Okay,
then you can look
yeah,
at it.
All right.
maybe. Sit at the head.
I'll get a cookie while
Head
I'm
of the table.
You guys are...
We pulled back so that...
I will do my best here. All right.
And in 5 minutes, we're going to have you move again.
We'll see how it goes. So the Parish Family Advisory Council is the Parish Family Advisory Council is the body that the diocese wants us to form for the whole parish family, and they put a timeline on it. So where we might be focusing on a bunch of different areas. They're really wanting us to focus on this because it's they want us to move towards listening sessions that are not necessarily this, but listening sessions to answer several different questions as part of the Partners in the Gospel program. I'm going to let you take that in a moment so you can recap that. But the essential idea being that we don't pause in that progress towards becoming one canonical parish. And so in an ideal world, we'll have 2 members from each parish, so 2 from St. Anne, St. Thomas, 2 from Queen of Angels, 2 from St. Joseph, and 2 from St. Mary's. And that's mostly accomplished, except for in Port Townsend, where a lot of people have been asked, none have been able to say yes. So I've been very grateful for a couple folks from here, a couple in each parish, and in English and in Spanish. So trying to really make sure that we have the cultures as well as the communities, the physical communities represented. And we are supposed to be I think the drop-dead deadline for our first meeting is this summer. So August, September. And then we begin having listening sessions at each parish to answer a question of who are we? So what really defines our parish? What is our what makes our community particularly vibrant, or what do we really value about our parish? Taking that feedback, having the council kind of collate that all together, publish it, and then begin mulling over the question, probably for another future listening session. Who do we want to be as one parish family, as one canonical parish? What does it look like to somehow bring that together, and then continue moving the ball towards becoming one canonical parish? So that's been the big focus after faith formation, after liturgical year, going, all right, this is something the diocese has particular deadlines in getting done by the end of the year. So that's one of the sort of big priorities right now, which isn't to say that other things are not priorities. Faith formation, want to make sure that continues forward. Have interviewed several bookkeeper candidates at this point. I have one more interview next week, and I do believe we will probably be very close to a decision, God willing, to maybe offer a job to a new bookkeeper by the end of the month, and continue forward on that part too. So, and then we still have yet to have all of our parishes have finance councils and pastoral councils, and I know we feel that particularly here. St. Mary's pastoral councils and finance councils, yeah, and St. Mary's in Port Townsend, they have the councils, but several members have not died. I don't want to make it sound morose, but they've come and said, I'm 75 years old, I am having health issues I need to pull off, or my kids are moving away and I'm thinking I might move away or whatnot. So our councils there are deflated, I think is a good word in the sense of numbers. And then we did have someone pass away in Queen of Angels, and so our councils there, our pastoral council is struggling, and in Squim, our finance council is very, very small. So we've got effectively 8 councils to rebolster as well, or recreate. So total of 9 councils needing a creation or recreation as well. So we have a few projects sort of in front of us still of ways to go. And I know that pretty much everybody in this room is volunteering for, well, more than one thing, I suspect. So I'm not trying to put it on you guys either, but would be very grateful, for at the very least, for your prayers. One of the things that has been a consistent struggle is calling people who could do it, who have the skills, who are recommended to do it, and maybe they're burnt out, maybe they're intimidated by the thing, maybe they've already got their fingers on enough things that maybe others didn't know about. And so now it hasn't been so much not a question of inviting, but it's a question of folks saying, I just can't do that. And so one of the challenges that is not a news to us, but challenges that is newly prioritized, is just getting people to take more ownership of their communities and go, okay, we need we need new people to step in and go, okay, yeah, I'm game for this. Yeah, this is something I'm willing to do. So that's sort of the state of things. I'm sure there's other things to be covered. Carlos, I'm sorry, I didn't do any of that in Spanish. So, especialmente concilios. Necesitamos nueva gente por los concilios de pastorales y también de nuestros concilios de financieras. Sí, pero también estamos formando este nuevo concilio que es un requisito, un mandato de los arzobispos por este Partners in the Gospel y que va a ayudar para formar todas nuestras comunidades unidos en una parroquia. Y el arzobispo quiere que nosotros lo hacemos en un tiempo más o menos regular, que no decimos que vamos a hacerlo más en el futuro, que lo hacemos este verano, formamos este grupo, en septiembre probablemente tener sesiones de escuchar para contestar la pregunta de qué es el significado de nuestra comunidad, qué es importante de nuestra parroquia y otra parroquia, y siguiente que nosotros hablamos de qué queremos hacer como una comunidad, y siguiente de esta pregunta, cómo vamos a hacerlo, cómo vamos a tener éxito en crear esta nueva comunidad. Solamente tenemos dos años más para cumplir este programa, y el obispo es animado que nosotros no fallamos nuestra energía o las oportunidades. Es un mandato de él que formamos esto en una manera de hablar más, que ese tiene más prioridad de otras cosas para que nosotros estamos enfocando en unirnos entre las parroquias. Jason, do you want to jump in on how Partners in the Gospel is going, or anything on those things?
I'll get up and I'll stand back here so I can.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's for everyone. As Father mentioned, the big thing that pretty much every family is concentrating on right now is getting this Parish Family Advisory Council, PFAC. We'll hear this acronym probably ad nauseum over the next couple of years as we go through the process. This advisory council that Father's forming, everyone else is also forming something very similar to what he's doing. His is going to be a little bit different because of just the geographic areas. There's people from very kind of far out versus people who are only a few miles away, essentially, from each other joining councils. With these councils, they're just now, for most of the places, at least in my region, are just now starting to meet. Father's not too far off of there. So he's doing well with getting everything together, with kind of meeting those not so stringent deadlines. I'd say they're a little bit more guidelines for the most part, but definitely I think just having them and moving in the right direction and getting these councils together is going to be a big help for him when it comes to the parts that have to be done. I don't know how much you guys know about what's happened so far in Partners, but for the most part it's been this past year of Partners first getting going for all the parishes. It's kind of just getting to know each other as a parish family, basically. So getting to know that you have a parish family, that there are the other churches here, you have some other programs. You start to get to know a little bit about them. Again, you might not have visited them, maybe at all, because of the distance. But you've heard some things about them. You start to hear and start to maybe get a sense for the fact that these folks are in the same parish family as you are. And then as we start going here, we're now starting to get into year 2, which is where really the work starts going. PFAC is going to be primarily in charge of doing a lot of the work and helping Father get that work, bringing the parishes together, starting to get some of those going. So when Father mentioned the kind of a listening session or feedback session, essentially, for you folks coming up, some of the first tasks that PFAC will be helping him with is this section that's called Who Are We? And so the first kind of half of that is where the parishes will discuss their gifts amongst themselves. So what are the gifts that you, as St. Anne, and then the mission of Clown Bay or St. Thomas, what do you guys bring together as gifts for your parish family? What gifts, unique things that can be shared with the others. And then the other half of Who Are We, that you'll be that the PFAC will be working on and getting feedback from the parish itself, is around challenges and opportunities. So what opportunities do you guys have to help each other with ministry, evangelization, all those kind of things? What kind of opportunities of people do you you have that you're not serving now, that you could be serving? And what are some challenges around it? What are the challenges that exist for your parish and for the other parishes in the family for you guys to come together? Which obviously, right, one you can think of right off is geography. Okay? Geography is a huge problem, right? And that's something that I'm sure will come up in those listening sessions. So that's kind of where everything is at. And we're going to be going into this next section as this year goes along and then as we get into 2026, which will be who do we want to become. So as a parish family, again, you'll be thinking about things from a family level, coming together as one canonical parish. Who do we want to become as a canonical parish? That takes up a lot of 2026. So that's kind of the next step. And again, that's something that the PFAC will be working on and will be communicating, through all different media. There's, your bulletins, having the meetings, those kind of things. All those things will be coming together, and you guys will be learning about those as we go. I think that's pretty much where we're at right now for all the families, including yours. So, like I said, you guys are not, not too far behind. I would say. I think Father's doing a great job here so far.
Father Ed, did you want to offer anything on the way of state of things or how things are going? I know I didn't warn you of that question. I apologize putting you on the spot, but
State of things. Well, my health is improving since the heart attack, which is good because it starts to give me, be able to invest more in the parish, catching up on pastoral care and what's needed there. Also looking at liturgical ministries and what we need to do, beginning with Eucharistic ministers and getting them fully trained and commissioned or updated and commissioned. It feels good to settle in after all that I've been through. I was also having the Italian contingent. I was on the road for at least 2 weeks with them. So, it just feels good to be here and, settling in. After a tumultuous last summer was tumultuous, moving into Port Angeles and then moving to Forks. And so it just feels like things are settling in a nice way. And, starting to strategize around the young adults and youth ministry. Spoken with Cheryl about helping with that. Looking at the possibility of youth and or young adults hike, mass on the beach, maybe a gourmet meal on the beach. We're looking at some, while it's still warm enough to do that.
It'll get warm enough. Sorry. It was only 59 down there yesterday.
better you than me.
I think, we had a good retreat with Archbishop of
Yeah.
CC, and, I think that was well attended, so.
I love that he was on vacation and he spent 2 weeks going to a different parish nearly every day.
I asked him, I said, you want to sit by a lake or a creek like I wanted to do? And he's like, no, I'm working and share the faith. He loves the Blessed Carl, and he was writing, finishing a book almost every day. Kind of amazing to see someone work in his spare time. He's finished one book, was finishing a second book, was starting a third book.
He's reading and writing.
Writing. I was impressed too to see someone so prolific. It was impressive and a little bit convicting. It's like, how was I spending my spare time? Lord have mercy. So I feel really good. I'm feeling good.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm feeling good. Tammy's working up a storm, getting the hall ready for all that. And now we're renovating the library because we've got actually have a film crew from New Zealand coming next week to interview me for a documentary.
Okay.
So it's actually about a deliverance case that I was involved in, and we needed the conference room. So Tammy went after the
That's good to hear.
Check out the library.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Well, that's all I have in the way of updates. I think we have an updates, but the floor is your guys' for questions if you came with things that you'd like to ask about or concerns or ideas.
I think when Father was sick, when he got sick, we realized it's really hard to only ever have two priests.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too far apart. I mean,
Yeah.
when you got sick, we learned that really well.
After Father came back, probably about a month and a half ago, I went to the office for the Vicar for Clergy and asked them about backup plans. I said, so what are we going to do next time? If and not necessarily because I'm anticipating health issues, but Father Golly is on a visa that has 1 to 2 years left before he has to go back. And anything could happen to any of us with regards to whether it's health issues or I hesitate to say car accidents, but we do a bit of driving, those kinds of things. I said, so do we have a contingency plan for who we might ask? We know that there are parishes that have vicars that they aren't going to have vicars forever. Like there are parishes that will be merged or closed. Do we have a list of parishes where if we had to, we could yank a priest? Well, we never thought of that, was the response I got. Well, I'm going to need you to do that because I do have a contingency plan if we go down to 2 priests. It's uncomfortable to say the least, and it would involve some pretty dramatic cutbacks in just weekend mass schedule and also just availability because we'd be running around. We'd spend most of our time, the 2 of us that were left, running around. There's also a contingency plan for 1 priest, which is real ugly. It's basically Sunday masses, very sparsely spread across the peninsula, and very minimal pastoral care while we recoup, try to figure it out. So, yeah, anything less than 3 is not very feasible at all. I would argue not feasible, period. So I'm trying to work with the chancery in. I told them I didn't need names. Like I'm not looking to get my pick of what priest if something should happen, but rather just to know that there is a plan in place so that if something should happen, we don't get caught as flat-footed. It did not occur to me that we'd have health issues. It did not occur to me that we might have. I just didn't think that through. Of like, oh, that's right. We're humans. Something could happen, Or Father Golly's bishop could call tomorrow and say, I'm pulling him back. Technically he's a diocesan priest on loan to us from India. There's an agreement in place and whatnot. But it's, if the bishop of his diocese said, I need him more than you need him, that's a legitimate thing he could say. What would be our backup plan? So, trying to have a little bit on that. That's not up to me, so I don't want to pretend like I have the answers to that. But I'm ringing that bell a little bit of like, hey, let's think these things through. Because, yeah, it was ambiguous at first. Is this, it probably wasn't just days, is this weeks?
No, I just think John and Dwight, they did the service and it was beautiful. And for the communion service and reading, for Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's not the first time.
No, it's not the first time.
No,
but they did a good job.
They did very well, yeah. And Deacon Dan Powers was very generous in coming out as well. I think he went to Clallam Bay.
He did.
And offered a communion service out there. Did he come here or did John do the one here?
John
did the one here, yeah.
Did the communion service, but I know John's done that.
Oh, sure, yeah. No, I was real impressed. Everybody just jumped in, which was a huge gift because I think we were all just, feeling it. You most of all, but the rest of us were feeling it too. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Father, you mentioned about Father Gallo being on a visa and maybe having 1 or 2 years left.
Sure.
What's that mean?
So, and I'm happy to have anybody else correct me if I have this wrong, but my understanding of the visa situation for what are called external priests, is that they can be in the United States for a total of 10 years, 5 years at a time, and in between the 5-year term, they have to spend 1 year back at their home country. So Father Golly, we just looked this up. The date seems to say that he came in sometime in 2022, which would suggest that he leaves for his 1 year back in his home country in 2027. But I was told that it was 2026, which would be July of this coming year. But there's also some possibility that because of COVID and because he often takes a year back in India, that basically some of his deadline time gets extended because he gets that time back on the clock. So currently we have our lawyer, the archdiocesan lawyer, looking at it, working with immigration to figure it out. So at the very least we have another year with him, possibly 2 years. But I'm kind of hedging my bets right now because it is ambiguous. We're not sure. When I got here, I was told I had 2 years with him, and that he would be leaving in 2026. But there's a distinct possibility that it'll be 2027. So unless I'm wildly mistaken in my understanding of the facts or the facts change, 2027 is a hard cutoff. He has to go back to India and spend a year away there. But that's sort of the ambiguity right now.
So about the visa process, am I correct in thinking that the backlog that has been sort of resolved, that it's that the priests who are coming in externally, that their visas are no longer processed in a bigger pool, but they have another package?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Pillar Catholic Journalism Online did a great article about this. Sounds like you might know about that one. So I'm probably going to get the details wrong because I don't have a real firm grasp. But my understanding is what you were alluding to and kind of saying. It used to be that religious were in their own pool of visas. And they weren't in competition with any, competition is the wrong word, but basically to apply for this pool, you had to be a religious worker, whether it was a layperson, a religious as in nun, brother, monk, or clergy. And that pool was only for religious workers. And then you had other workers. And at some point, I want to say it was in the transition between the two administrations. So I'm not trying to point fingers except to say that it was sometime in that transition. Those pools were collapsed into one. And so now religious workers and any other workers are competing, if you will, for the same pool of visas. And the number was not expanded. I don't think that has been fixed. I think we're still in that circumstance. I hadn't heard so. I feel like the Catholic newspapers would have been promulgating, proclaiming that. My understanding was that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has been really trying to lobby for a return to what was, because we're feeling it the most. And we're seeing, as guys begin to have their timer, like Father Golly, count down, getting guys to come in is just that much harder because the pool is so much smaller. But I don't think it's been returned to what we had hoped it would return to. But I could be wrong on that. Yeah.
Yeah, we did have a situation in one of my parish families with down Father Brian Oaks' family and Father William Dodoma, who's from Malawi, where he had he was assigned as of July 1st to be in that parish family, and then he was told that he didn't have a visa appointment, I think, until December at least, or January. So it took a call from our archdiocese to, I guess, to them, to Malawi, so they're going to say that in the consulate office out there, to say, hey, we need him, he's assigned here, so is there any way we can speed up? And he was able to come out in September. So yeah, I don't think that situation is fixed, but it took actually, us asking for an exception. Saying,
extraordinary.
Hey, we need him here. So, because Father Oaks is going to have to prepare to not have a vicar until at least December, January. And then blessing that we got him in September.
Yeah. Carlos, ¿cómo estás haciendo con inglés y español? Okay, all right. I'm going to try to remember to go back and forth, though. Okay, all right. I'm going to try to do better with the Spanish. I'm sorry.
Going back to what you're talking about, 2 people from each parish making...
With the Parish Family Advisory Council, yeah.
The advisory council.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a large Hispanic population.
Yes.
And how would they be represented?
So,
there's a problem with language.
Yeah.
And reaching out to them.
Yeah. So specifically from Forks, I have asked one person who's English speaking and one person who's Spanish speaking. I will just say this. I don't want to necessarily name them right now because we haven't formed it yet and I don't want to put it on them on the hook, but they both said yes, they would be on it. And so we have a Spanish speaking person who speaks English as well, but I'll be doing a better job than I am right now of the back and forth in English and Spanish. But basically, and I have other members from other communities who speak Spanish primarily, and we're going to have bilingual councils where we have conversation back and forth and are helping translate for each other. So ella estaba pidiendo de cómo tenemos representación y también cómo comunicamos en inglés y en español y como sabes, creo, vamos a tener representación de las comunidades que hablan español y también en inglés. Pero todavía no estoy nombrado quién va a estar parte del concilio para que ellos puedan tener la opción de decir, creía que iba a hacerlo, pero me da pena que eso no es para mí, yo necesito cambiar algo de mi participación. So, we do have at each parish, except for, again, Port Townsend, well, Queen of Angels doesn't have a Spanish-speaking community to speak of, so it's just 2 English speakers from there. But St. Joseph's, 1 English, 1 Spanish here. And I count St. Anne's and St. Thomas as one community, even though they're obviously 2 locations, because it is a parish and a mission. So really want to emphasize that. I know that folks from St. Thomas, I don't know how many of you are specifically from St. Thomas. I think all of you are St. Anne's folks, aren't you? Yeah. But really trying to emphasize that, yes, there are 2 buildings, but it is still technically 1 community, canonically speaking, as well. So I didn't want to do 2 members from St. Thomas, 2 from St. Ed. So, and I will admit to you that I struggled with that a bit, because it was like, okay, how do I get representation from St. Thomas? Quickly realizing that the people that I would ask at St. Thomas said no. And so the person that I asked from the English-speaking community at St. Anne's has roots from St. Thomas, actually lived there for a while in Clallam Bay. And so it is my hope, my aspiration at least, that because of his connection there and the people he knows there, that there will be an ease of communication on that front. So, does that help answer your question, though, of how that'll work? Yeah.
So when those people are named,
Yes.
you will announce that?
Oh, yeah, you guys are all going to know who they're on there, yeah. So,
and then we would go to them if we had an issue or a concern.
Yeah, I mean,
or interest or...
Exactly. I mean, and we are in a unique situation geographically. So in theory, the Parish Family Advisory Council would replace the pastoral councils. And we would end up having 1 Parish Family Advisory Council that's just 1 super pastoral council and 1 finance council that covers everybody. I would just tell you, logistically, that'd be great to just have 2 councils. I would love that very much. However, but how is it that folks at Forks are going to reasonably understand what happens at Port Townsend and have a working knowledge of that? How is it that folks in Port Townsend are going to have a reasonably working knowledge of what happens in Forks? And no, with no offense intended, I know that we all are pretty mobiles. Costco's in Squim, so you're going there at some point. The medical stuff is in Port Angeles or Squim. We're going there at some point. So my current working plan, and it is subject to adaptation as we figure this out, we're going to form the Parish Family Advisory Council, because that's what the bishop has told me to do, and we're obedient. We are working with and under the Archbishop, and it's going to serve this particular function, and it will eventually be the technical pastoral council, canonically speaking. And we are required to have a finance council, so there will be 1 finance council. What I suspect we're going to end up having to do is to have some sort of local advisory committee at each location that basically informs, that has conversations, that frankly the local priest and the pastor both have to have some sort of regular contact with, and then that council informs, or maybe even has a representative who goes to the what will eventually be the super pastoral council and the super finance council, and there's communication. So instead of going from 8 councils to 2, I'm going to go from 8 councils to 6. So I will admit to you that it doesn't save me a lot in the way of meetings, it doesn't save us a lot in the way of logistics, but there's not a lot of way to make that work when we've got such distances, because the problems at Forks are not the problems at Port Townsend and vice versa, or even Port Angeles or Squim. So we are going to, I'm wandering far from your initial question, which is, will we know who's on the councils? Yes. So initially, right now I'm focused, pretty laser focused as best I can on the Parish Family Advisory Council, because that's what the Archbishop expects of me. I still have to form a pastoral council and a final council here specifically, and I need to reform the ones at the other parishes as well, and those names will also be public. And the way that I envision it, and again, this is a bit of a spitball because I haven't met with this council yet, is to have someone on the pastoral council as a liaison with the Parish Family Advisory Council back and forth. And because the Parish Family Advisory Council is not technically a canonical council, in other words, it doesn't have any standing in universal church law, no council bosses anybody around, but but to some degree, they're also accountable to the pastoral council, and the pastoral council is also reporting to them. So it is sort of a weird middle state that we're in. But because of the priority of the Parish Family Advisory Council, that's where a lot of my energy is going. Para explicarlo en español. So, ella estaba preguntando de cómo vamos a introducir o saber quién está sirviendo en estos concilios. Y cuando reunimos por la primera vez, especialmente con ¿cómo se dice? Parish Family Advisory Council. Este concilio del obispo que necesitamos formar, cuando ellos han reunido por la primera vez y ellos están cómodos de continuar en sus responsabilidades, vamos a compartir todos los nombres y sus parroquias con todas las comunidades para que las comunidades puedan hablar con los representativos, ofrecer sus sugerencias, sus problemas, sus anxiedades, sus ideas, y las parroquianos pueden hablar con ellos, ellos pueden hablar entre nosotros en el concilio y ofrecemos ideas, decisiones, noticias cualquier. Últimamente voy a necesitar tener concilios locales para cada parroquia, porque este concilio grande no puede saber todo de las necesidades, todas las realidades de cada parroquia. So, hay tanta distancia entre las diferentes parroquias. En otras partes de la archdiocese, las parroquias, las comunidades son más cercanas. Ellos pueden tener un concilio porque, por ejemplo, en Seattle Norte, hay 2 parroquias que tienen 3 millas de los dos y no necesitan sus propios concilios porque todos pueden visitar muy fácilmente. So, nuestra situación es poquito diferente y vamos a necesitar tomar diferentes estrategias. So, yeah. We're more complicated, but we are easier in as much as we don't have to close anything or merge anything. I mean, in some ways, ours is less traumatic in that regard. We may be losing mass times. Well, I don't know that we've lost any mass times here, but schedules have changed, functions of things have changed, but our communities are by and large remaining intact as they have been, and that's an advantage I think we have that others don't, because the geography demands has these needs for us. So.
Are our finances going to continue to stay with each parish, or eventually?
Oh man, that's the question
10
of the
years from
day.
now,
Well, no, not 10 years.
What was your question, Sue?
She's asking, are
we going to continue to have our own funds, each parish?
That is the question everybody asks. That was the very first question that was asked at one of the very first things. Is our money going to stay our money? It's a reasonable question, honest to God.
100%, yeah.
And I want to be very equally frank. No. So we will be one canonical parish. So all of our funds will be joined together. So group monies, there's always a distinction to be made, first of all. Individual group monies. So, I'm sorry, I have different charitable groups. What's the charitable group here? Apostolic Action. Sorry, I have a 10% committee at a different parish. The Apostolic Action Committee, for instance, is its own group, and its funds are its own funds. The flower fund for this location is the flower fund, the facilities fund. It's the general funds of the parish that will all come together because we will be one canonical parish. So, for instance, what you donate here to the general pot will go to the big pot overall. On the flip side, if and when your roof needs things to be replaced, well, God forbid, although, Port Townsend, we had that pretty much out of the gate when all this started. Ours is good, yeah. No.
It's like a house. You did it, and then some years later
Yeah.
you gotta do it again.
50 years when we're all done with it, when our time is done.
my lifetime.
But it's important to recognize the benefit and the con, right? So the con, at least in our mind, is I'm giving money at the parish that I go to, at the location I go to, and that money could go somewhere else. And that's a reality. I mean, I don't want to hide that from you. I want you to know that, and that is part of the thing. On one hand, that can be a heartache because it's like, gosh, I want to support the parish that I'm at. And this is my offering of support for the parish I'm at. And frankly, that is a good thing, and we want to encourage that. At the same time, one of the reasons that Partners in the Gospel, in fact, the primary reason that Partners in the Gospel can be successful is that it forces us to think about our neighbors that cannot support themselves as well as others. I would propose to you, without any condescension, without any kind of like, oh, you guys or whatnot, that isn't what I mean at all, but Forks is a beneficiary of that. Because Forks, while there's lots of independence among the individuals, Forks could not possibly support financially paying for one priest by itself. That might have been true at some point, but if you were to look at our books and go, okay, this is how much income we come in, we could not afford to pay a priest full-time with benefits and also staff and all of the infrastructure that's there. God forbid that we do have some sort of major financial emergency of, I don't know if we have a boiler here, but say the boiler goes out or the roof needs to be repaired. We rely on the shared costs of things. Port Townsend's another big example of that right now. Port Townsend has a $600,000 loan that we are working on a capital campaign that will be launching relatively soon. And I would propose to you, by the way, that where this is particularly felt, and it's a pastoral priority of mine in the sense of touching people's hearts and poking them a bit, is in Sequim, Port Angeles. And perhaps if they're listening to this recording in the future, there's a little bit of squirming, because they're the wealthiest communities. They are by far. I'm not going to give you exact numbers, because I don't know how prudent that is, but I would just say this. There are millions of dollars in the savings accounts between those two parishes. Not huge amounts of millions, but several $1 million between the two of them. And one of the things that I've been pushing with them particularly is, and it wasn't my idea. There was another priest in the diocese, when I was looking at the reports that I had, they said, the priest looked at me and said, Jacob, how is that many $1 million serving the gospel in your bank account? And I was just like, don't know, because is it actually serving the gospel? And of course we want to have some reserve always, if the roof fails, if something needs to be built or whatnot. And that's one of the conversations, particularly at the finance council meetings of those two parishes, of like, do we not have a responsibility, knowing that this location here in Forks is mission critical? People are driving to this parish from further away, and I don't say hinterlands in an insulting way, just coming in from the hinterlands, driving here, and then going out to Port Angeles, technically possible. I made the drive tonight. These guys came from Seattle, God bless them, or Bremerton, but technically possible. But is it a reasonable thing to ask people to drive 2 hours to go to Mass on Sunday? Do we not need a location here? If this location cannot financially support itself through no fault of its own, that's not a blame thing, do we not have a duty to financially support them so that the mission of the gospel, the practice of the faith, the evangelization of peoples is happening here, regardless of whether or not the people locally could finance that? Because at some point you hit a critical mass that can or can't do that. And I'll be honest, that's a challenge for folks who are like, yeah, but it's our money. I was like, but is it your money? Did you not donate it? Is it not and I'm not even saying it's the churches in the sense of it's my money, but in the sense of the universal churches. Is this not the resource now for the mission of the universal church? And doesn't that mean it needs to go from wherever you wanted it to go to where the Lord is calling it to go? That's a hard thing to say, because it does mean that when I give that money away, I'm actually giving it away. And I'll at least speak for myself. I haven't always had that attitude. I'm giving this money for a cause, and I still control it in the sense of I get to decide where it goes because I put it where I want it to go. And now Partners in the Gospel is challenging that, and it will challenge that. So there will be funds that stay local because they have to stay local because they belong to the local group. And then there are funds that will absolutely be distributed according to whatever the need is. And that will take place when we become one canonical parish. So until we are one canonical parish, the funds that are a parishes are just the parishes. But once we move to one canonical parishes, those funds will be, I think the word is fungible. They can move between locations. Yeah.
So will we as Apostolic Action still be able to do that, or is that?
Yeah, can groups still do their thing? Oh, yeah.
So we'll still be able to, when all the funds go in one pot, can we still get our...
I apologize, I might not have explained this super well.
But I just wanted to know we can still give our money to the...
The short answer is yes, but let me give you the long answer too, because it's an important thing, and I want you to be able to answer this for other people as well, because what's on your guys' heart is not just on your hearts, it's on the hearts of other people as well. So set aside the general pot, right? So the general pot will be everybody's general pot. Particular designated funds or restricted funds remain designated or restricted. Those are technically two different terms. I'm not entirely sure what the distinction is, so I'm just going to use them interchangeably. I'm sure that anybody who listens to this who's a bookkeeper, or maybe one of you, will set me straight afterwards. That's fine. But restricted and designated funds remain restricted or designated. Apostolic action, I believe you guys get a certain percentage, or is it 10%? So we're probably going to have to figure out how it gets funded in a particular way. I'm spitballing. Please do not hold me to this. So in 2 years, you can play this recording back, and you'll also hear me say, I'm not sure how this is going to work. But here's what I think, just off the top of my head. What we would probably end up doing is taking 10% of the local collection and designating that to the apostolic action. That seems to me like a reasonable way. So the local collection would go into the general pot, but not before the 10% that we decided on. Probably discerning with local leadership. So with, again, that local council that is formed, that wouldn't be the pastoral council, but the local council. Yeah. So individual restricted or designated funds remain individual and restricted. I want to name a possibility. I've named this at every single town hall meeting, and I want to name it here. There is a way you can game the system, but it would absolutely be self-sabotaging. It's going to occur to you. That's why I'm naming it, because it will occur to you. Well, what if I only donate to designated funds? I only donate to the building fund at St. Anne's. I only donate to Apostolic Action. I only donate. You can actually do that. And people have thought, well, I only want my money to go here, so I'm only going to donate it to very specific things. And what I propose to you, apart from the practical thing of, yes, that could actually handicap a church, because suddenly I can't spend that money in things that are what I've discerned are the needs. It only goes this. I've had parishes where literally people say, I'm only donating to the facilities fund. That's great. I have $60,000 in the facilities fund, but I can't pay my secretary because I'm not allowed to use designated restricted funds. And so before all the practicalities, though, one of the things that we all have to be challenged on is, am I giving this money for the Lord to use as he sees fit? And this is the hard part, and I recognize that even after a year I have much to prove as a pastor. Or am I giving it to the church under the person that the Lord has sent to us to discern to be used in the way that is discerned is necessary? That's a hard sell. I recognize that. And I recognize that we priests, I, your pastor, have to prove that I'm worthy of that trust. But I very much want to encourage you, if that's where your struggle is, and it's a reasonable place for that struggle to be, how am I donating freely towards the needs? Now, there might be times where you say, Apostolic Action really needs extra support. I am going to donate as a designated way or in a restricted way. But also, really, I mean, one of the big pushes for Partners in the Gospel is the sort of expansiveness of, I want to participate in the life of the church beyond what is right in front of me, even though what is right in front of me is going to be most immediate. It's going to be what is most normal. So, I'm sorry, I went far beyond your question, which is a simple answer of yes.
You answered my question, so we can still write our checks.
Yeah.
That's what I'm happy.
Ella estaba preguntando de moneda. ¿Qué va a pasar con la moneda de la parroquia? Y la contesta sencilla es que vamos a unir toda la moneda de cada parroquia en una cuenta. Excepto que los grupos que son que tienen su propio dinero. So, por ejemplo, en su caso probablemente, todavía no son regulares en sus actividades de recibir moneda, pero la grupo carismática, por ejemplo, si ellos están fundados como un grupo parroquiano, ellos van recibiendo moneda, ellos van a tener su cuenta única, que es aparte de la parroquia, es decir que su moneda es guardado solamente por su uso, por sus prioridades. Pero la moneda que se da en la parroquia en general va a estar unido para cualquier parroquia necesita esta moneda. Y por nosotros aquí en Forks, no es una competición, pero en una manera de hablar ganamos en esta situación porque nosotros necesitamos más ayuda de las parroquias que son más grandes, que tienen más accesibilidad. Por las parroquias más grandes como Port Angeles y Sequim, ellos tienen millones de dólares. No muchos millones, pero algunos millones. Y nosotros no tenemos esto. Por nosotros aquí en Forks no tenemos suficiente para pagar para todo que es necesario en una parroquia. Estamos recibiendo ahora mismo ayuda de otras parroquias. Y la cosa para nosotros en Partners in the Gospel es que necesitamos tener más, una actitud más expansiva, es más grande, sí, más grande de considerar las necesidades de las comunidades más lejos, más aparte de nuestra comunidad, para crear en nuestros corazones un espíritu de generosidad y decir a Dios, confío en ti, ofrezco lo que estoy ofreciendo para tu uso. Aunque tengo mis propias prioridades, quiero que esté usado en esta manera, pero voy a ofrecer esto y confiar que los que están haciendo decisiones están haciendo con sabiduría, con pensamiento, con consuelo de otras personas. So, va a cambiar al final de Partners in the Gospel, más o menos 2027. Tenemos 2 años más o menos, antes que empiece, pero empezando cuando nosotros somos un parroquia, sola parroquia canónica, va a estar la realidad. So.
I got a question about that one.
Yes.
The envelope, I receive it, so where's that money's going?
Yes. Right now, the envelope that you receive for St. Anne's goes to St. Anne's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure it's going somewhere, because I put some money in every month, but and I saw those envelopes or whatever, same thing.
Yeah. Right now, where you donate is where it goes.
Okay.
In the future, where you donate is where you donate, but it could go anywhere. And this is where it's going to be very important for us to be very clear about communicating what are the needs of each parish. Where are those funds going? And it has been, this is our 3rd parish town hall meeting, and I'm happy to talk about it if those of you who want to talk about it. We have not been able to consistently produce reports for the last 12 months. We have not been able to consistently produce, all I can tell you is we are handling the money well, but we have been behind in being able to produce reports of here's where we're at, here's where the money's going, here's where the money's been spent. There are lots of reasons for that. There are lots of things that are acceptable. There are a lot of things that are not acceptable about that situation. I will tell you that just today or yesterday, I signed off on the last of 6 months backlog on credit card expenses of being reviewed and entered. Not that they were being irresponsibly done, but they haven't been entered, they haven't been processed, that kind of thing. So one of the things that's going to be super important is just having those finance councils and having those reports and going, okay, this is our budget. We're getting the money that we need. Or, gosh, it really seems like, are our bills being paid on time, or are we allocating enough money for the needs of our parish, of our needs? That's where the local councils are still going to be very much necessary, because again, even Port Angeles or Squim or Port Townsend doesn't necessarily know the needs of Forks. And with no offense to you guys, you don't know the needs of Port Angeles, Squim, or Port Townsend. So those are going to be parts of that as well. Anyway, I'm sorry, I've taken your simple questions and expanded the answer, but the answer is right now you give money at St. Anne's, it goes to St. Anne's. In 2 years, you give money to St. Anne's, and it might go to St. Anne's, but we will have the option of going, okay, it's going to go one way or the other depending on the need. Yes, Dan?
So, with the money thing, how will I get a balance for like the flower account? Because you said that's a separate entity.
Yeah.
How will I know how much money is in the flowers? Because I deal with the poinsettias and the Easter lilies, those 2 big sections. And we have some parishioners that donate extra, and it goes in there. And so when I'm buying the stuff, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to save.
Right,
this.
I have this much fund. Yeah.
I'm going to go here.
You just call a bookkeeper.
Yeah. So I can't tell you what the process is going to be, because we are getting a new bookkeeper. We're right on the edge of that, and we don't yet have a finance council. So those are going to be 2 key components of that. But the short answer is you ask. You say, I need to know how much money is in the flower account. And currently right now I would say you ask Sue, not because Sue has the answer, but because Sue is the designated contact person for our parish here. And Sue says, okay, I need to know, how much money is in the designated flower account. I do want to clarify, just in case it's not clear in your mind, and forgive me for repeating what I've already said, and you may have caught it already. The flower account is a designated or restricted fund, so it's not like that's the general fund that might be shuffled around. So, yeah.
And do we ask Sue for apostolic action? Does she know for us as well?
Sue doesn't know. Sue is our primary communication person at St. Anne's.
Huh?
She's the middleman.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. So Sue, we've asked that there be one primary person out of the office here who people go to, so that when Sue emails or calls, okay, we got the answer for that. We're going to get the answer for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you. Now this item
Yeah.
to go to. Good.
It's been 1 year, so we had the bulletin. Remember we had this conversation at our first council, or our first town hall,
Yeah.
about the bulletin being purchased where, some other state, and then I don't know what the
Uh-huh.
You're gonna bring it in-house.
whatever. So a whole year has gone by. We have a lot of parishioners, and probably a lot of us could raise our hands here, that we like to have our own bulletin.
Yeah.
It'd be more beneficial for us to have our own bulletin.
May I ask you?
Not have to wait for 10 days and then sometimes, to me it's crazy thinking that there's somebody that has to run back and forth to PA and bring our bulletin over every week. And then sometimes we miss it because things happen.
Yeah. So there are two things that I want to make sure we're distinguishing between. If you're asking if St. Anne's can have its own distinct bulletin, that's not going to happen. So I'm not going to give each parish its own bulletin. So we will have one bulletin that covers the whole parish family. And that's a necessity in part because having individual bulletins begins to break apart the whole idea of we're not united with these different communities. So there will be one bulletin that covers everybody. Publishing our own bulletin, it is an aspiration of mine. We're not there yet. I don't like LPI. I'm on the record multiple times of saying this, and it's on YouTube. I don't like LPI. I have a lot of personal reasons for not. LPI is the company that produces our bulletin. Yeah. So they're the company that produces our shell. They're the ones that determine the 10-day period. They're the ones who deliver, if we're really lucky, on Thursday morning, and if we're really unlucky, on Saturday morning. I don't know how to make the logistics work yet. And part of it is logistics and part of it is money of printing in-house. So, because if we printed in-house, we could print any day of the week we wanted to and get them out. And in an ideal world, we would print at every location. Before I got here, by the way, at 5:15, I spent 30 minutes in your office trying to make that darn brother printer work. I replaced every single toner cartridge. I followed all the instructions, and it's still not working. So we're probably going to have to do something more fun with that. In an ideal world, and this is where money becomes an issue. And by the way, this is where money becomes a blessing if we're one parish family. I frankly want to just get a copy machine in there. A copy machine is $10,000. We bought a $15,000 copy machine in Port Angeles because our old one died. You're not getting a $15,000 one here. You don't need a $15,000 one here. But $10,000 is really hard to justify out of St. Anne's budget. $10,000 is a really big expense.
That machine costs $10,000.
No, that machine cost. That machine cost $400, and I regret every penny. Yeah. Although, admittedly, we've used Brother before, and they're great. But that thing is a word that I'm not going to use on a recording. It's not great. But if we're going to print the bulletin out of Forks, which is what I want to do, what I want to do is say, we create the bulletin wherever we create it, we send you the file, you print it locally at whatever schedule you want to print it, and we're done. Same with Port Townsend, same with Squim, same with Port Angeles. We're not there. I'm not going to deny it. We're not there. Part of it is budgetary too, because printing every week. LPI is supported by advertisements, so we don't pay for the shells. Our advertisers effectively pay for it. On the flip side, because we don't pay for it, we are subject to their schedule. And LPI got bought out by a company. It used to be a different company, local. It got bought out by another company that's now LPI, and they're out of state. And so, yeah, it's a week or two. It is ridiculous. I mean, you've got my wholehearted agreement. And I wish I could tell you that I have a solid timeline for the plan. At the end of the day, what's going to happen is we purchase a copy machine here, and we have the process built where whoever contributes to the bulletin contributes to it, the file's put together, and then we send it to you, and you hit print. And a copy machine, by the way, collates, staples, you're done. It's great. I mean, and all I can tell you in the way of success stories is that my last parish, we did exactly that, but we were one parish. So obviously it was a lot easier to do it that way. I don't want you to give up on that. I also recognize that I'm basically telling you, wait and see. Please trust that it's going to happen. But
Next year, this time, what month are we?
well, we're July.
Okay,
Yeah.
conversation.
You don't have to wait till July of next year to have the conversation. Yeah, because Tammy, parishioners won't ask me things if it's not on a recording, right? It really is it's one of those things that would be such a quality of life thing. The hard part for this kind of thing is it's hard to prioritize this when I've got other fires going on. And I know that's an excuse, and it is an excuse, but it is also a reason. But I also want you to know that I do agree with it. To my mind, probably the biggest hurdle would, honest to God, be if we could get a copy machine here, we could start doing the printing thing immediately. Like we could literally send you the files, because it's all. Well, I'm sorry, that's not true. We couldn't do the printing immediately because we still have to get the shells from LPI. But you could do the printing here, we could send you the shells, and then when we switch over. But the copy machine, for forks particularly, the copy machine is the biggest hurdle. Because once we switch over to printing our own, well, if that printer functioned as it should, it still wouldn't be powerful enough to print off every week.
I think that Tim's son came in today to drop off stuff here.
Yeah.
So I had him look at it, and he did make a statement. He said, did he talk to you about it?
No.
And he said that, well, are these generic
Cartridges.
Cartridges, I said, yes. And he says that probably killed the machine. There should be really brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the second set we've gone not used.
That was the same conclusion I came to, is that the cheap cartridges, I don't know if it killed the machine, but it's rejecting the cartridges for sure. So, I mean, just so that you know, we're going to try purchasing the barter cartridges, which are easily 3 times as expensive. We're going to try them. If it fixes it, great, and then we'll continue forward. If it doesn't, we're going to have to buy another machine and eat the cost, and that's going to be...
We did have a machine when all these changes happened. We used to do our
The machine we had was very slow and very old.
Oh, no.
You don't want to go back to that one.
No. We had one that we leased from POE.
Oh, at least one. Oh,
from
yes.
POE.
Sorry.
Then COVID hit, we're paying a ton of money every month.
I'm sorry,
for it.
that one. Yeah. We probably, I mean, just so you know our strategy, we probably wouldn't lease a machine. We have purchased outright at both of our parishes the machine. We talked with POE about this, and they said, well, the only reason to lease is if you can't afford buying. And while St. Anne's likely can't afford buying, this would be one of those things where we would go, no, we're going to pay for it out of a group fund of some sort. So I'm not a really big fan of leasing for a couple of bad experiences that may or may not be representative, but yeah. At the end of the day, a copy machine is going to be what's necessary out here, but I won't pretend that's in the very near future. But we're going to try to fix your printer. I am sorry.
So, odd question. Is there an archdiocese purchasing contract that we could take advantage of, either that or a leasing contract with Xerox?
If we were in Seattle, yes, or at least there are recommended contractors out there. The hard thing with copy machines is you can buy from Seattle, you can buy out there, then you pay to get it shipped out here, and they won't offer support for it because
It's in the contract.
Well,
The diocese signed.
the diocese doesn't have like some whole archdiocese because we're too big. So there's no company that covers the whole archdiocese.
Well, I went to the University of Washington and they had one,
And my guess is they have greater purchasing power than we do. Like they're buying lots more copy machines. And
so it's unusual for there to be leasing versus purchasing.
I will just say that the diocese leaves it to each parish to do. So there are a lot of things where we have used the bulk power of buying. So we have an archdiocesan Microsoft account. We have an archdiocesan Amazon account. Our payroll is on an archdiocesan level. Our parish database system is an archdiocesan level. When it comes to stuff that is physical, that is physically based, it gets a lot harder for places like ours, because it's not just about the purchasing. Like, I suspect that we might be able to find a deal on purchasing, but then we would be paying on through POE, for instance, in all the servicing and whatnot. And my guess is that the purchasing discount wouldn't be as very significant, just because you're still paying $8 to $10 grand on the machine. POE does good by us. I mean, I don't know what your guys' feeling is. POE is, for those of you who don't know, it's the vendor of cotton machines in the area. Yeah. But is there a larger sort of bulk purchasing plan for this kind of thing? Not that I'm aware of, no. Sorry, could you say that one more time? Guys, that's really loud, I'm sorry. Could you say that one more time? Forgive me one more time, but ladies, if we could not move the plastic around so I can hear. The owners are Catholic, thank you. Yeah. It does, yeah. No, it helps when they're invested in our success, because they share the same faith.
Father, if I can add one thing related to the question around the archdiocesan kind of copier vendor. I do know one other challenge is a number of the vendors we work with for physical rentals of machines, like at our properties in Seattle, are trying to move away from the leasing of machines to just being in the business of printing and then shipping materials. Largely, it seems like to get away from being in the labor business of needing to go out and kind of work on machines for folks. So it is true we don't have an archdiocesan overarching leasing contract. I think we may even be losing some of our local to Seattle leasing capacity because the vendors are just doing away with the big scale leasing. In favor of doing what it sounds like LPI is sort of doing, which is printing on their schedule and shipping out and having all deal with the labor side of it there. So I want to say I feel your pain as well from the dealing with printing and shipping vendors. It is not ideal. But yeah, being out in this part of the diocese also makes it harder for us to connect with central vendors like that. So I just wanted to affirm what you were saying and say it's something we're struggling with even in the city of Seattle, getting people to want to give us lease contracts with really good service agreements built into them. So, yeah.
Question about, so I've heard like 3 questions, and one, Carlos can correct me if I'm wrong. One about worship aids, music. This is like a missal. I think you're talking about La Palabra, the monthly like worship aid on Espanol and also in Inglés. We used to use a bilingual sheet.
Yeah.
That worked really well, especially when we had half of the crowd was Anglophone and half was Hispanic. And then I had another question. People were asking about breaking bread. Are we going to continue to buy those? Do you have any vision for the future?
Yeah, so I want us to be using the same resource across our parishes. Specifically, part of it is principled, having as a sign of unity that we're doing similar things, which doesn't necessarily mean cookie cutter, but in the sense of we're drawing from the same resources across our worship practices. And I know you know this particularly from different things, but it can be a sign of, it can be a reality of great division to have wildly varying practices of faith, even to the points of like misunderstanding about what worship really looks like. And, are we Catholic or are we, this is our version of Catholic? When it comes particularly to the materials, I've got a couple of ideas of things that would be better resources than what we're kind of just sitting with right now. But we moved to breaking bread for the English missal and hymnal. And I think we purchased it particularly here more for the missal than the hymnal side of things. And then we have the bilingual booklet, I think is what we ended up ordering. I don't remember what the name of it is.
It's not bilingual. It's
An English booklet and a
Spanish booklet.
Is it just Spanish? Maybe that's what we ended up with then, okay. Because I know that last year we had the ordering in September. We just had to order it off the bat. Because that was the deadline before the books, because the books have to be printed and sent out at a certain time. There's definitely options out there. At the end of the day, at some point, what I want to purchase is a bilingual booklet. Whether it's I don't like subscription models. I like buying a hardcover book that we can keep for 10 to 15 years. The hard part is when you do that, you're spending hardcover prices, and
We did it.
yeah.
That's what we had.
Well, that's what we have with the Gather hymnal, right? Is what we've got. Is it Glory and Praise?
Do you want me to go get it? I'll go get it.
Glory and praise.
It's our hardbound
okay,
one,
it's
yeah.
Glory and Praise.
So the Glory and Praise is not a bilingual solution, and that's part of the problem with that one. And quite frankly, I will say it very bluntly, the Glory and Praise is a very particular generational offering of music. It is a particular style of music and comes forth from a particular genre of theology of music. And so at some point, I would like us to be looking at across our parishes. Breaking Bread is too, by the way, but Breaking Bread is a little more expansive. At some point, we're going to have to confront how are we having hymnals that reflect the fullness of option and richness of the church, both in progressive as well as traditional, and having that be consistent across the parishes. So the Glory and Praise only exists in Forks. It's the only parish that uses that hymnal. So right that alone is like, okay, at some point we're going to have to reconcile having a common resource. So when I ordered the Breaking Bread, that was sort of an inroad of, okay, at least we have a similar resource across all the parishes. But I think we went the English and Spanish route because we couldn't in time find a bilingual booklet that everybody agreed on across all the parishes. So at some point...
We ran into in Everett with Blessed Carlo, the Archbishop, there was some sort of a missalette that Father Joe uses in Everett that Archbishop Domenico said, "This is nice."
Yeah. Yeah.
"Can I have this?" So I got a copy from Father Joe.
There's Breaking Bread does a bilingual printing, not of the hymnal, just the missal, just the readings. I'm not a huge fan of OCP's productions for a variety of reasons, but they do have one. LTP has another one. The one that I really want to get, and here's something that I don't know how many of you keep your finger on this pulse. The Catholic Church has been working on a new translation of the lectionary, so not the prayers of the Mass, but the readings of the Mass. So anything we purchase hardbound before that comes out will have to be replaced. So I'm really reluctant to purchase anything hardbound that is a permanent resource for readings, because if we do, it has a ticking timer on it. Now, they were supposed to have come out with this new translation a year ago. They've been pushing the deadline back and back. So right now, my best effort is to do a subscription service of something bilingual so that eventually when they finish the translation, we can get a semi-permanent resource, 10 to 15 years or something. I would love for you guys to look up, and they have samples of the book online so you can see it, and it's side by side. There's a publication that is called Word and Eucharist, Palabra Eucharistia, and it is a bilingual missal, so we're not talking about the hymns, we're talking about the readings and the antiphons and the psalm. It is a bilingual missal that is side by side, English and Spanish. So if you say turn to page 6, you'll see English and Spanish side by side, and the editors of it were really smart. So, obviously if you have the same reading in the language, one language is bigger and one language is smaller because of the translation. It's never a one-to-one word. If one language is bigger to say the same thing, they have a lot of blank space so that every reading is a one-to-one page thing. So if it's in English, some very short reading, and in Spanish the words are longer, they have a bunch of blank space so that you have to turn the page so you're both at the same section of the same reading on each page. It's very well laid out so that even though we're in different languages, we're even on the same page, quite literally, as we're hearing the readings and offering the antiphons, or the prayers, or the psalm, or whatever it is. That's the book I want to buy. But if I buy it now, if I purchase it now, it's a hardbound book. In 3 years or 2 years or whenever they finally finish this new translation, we'll have to toss the whole thing out, because you can't use old translations, lectionary, and that. You have to get rid of them and buy a new one. So the solution in the short term is to look at a bilingual printout of the missal.
Well, that sounds like a paperback that I saw at
Yeah.
Father Joe's. It was like a 6-month.
Yeah.
So you had 2 volumes for one.
That came out twice a year. Yeah. So that is what we're going to be looking at when it comes time to order them, is a bilingual booklet, because...
We need something for the interim. Like 2 or 3 years, that's
Yeah.
much short.
I'm hesitant to promise you that we're going to do that this September, because I don't know what the terms of our purchasing agreement are. That's the only thing I don't know. My understanding is it's year to year, though. I don't think it's multi-year thing. I think it's you buy the subscription in September and it lasts you the whole year. And more than likely what we'll end up doing is just buying bilingual for all the parishes for the missal. There's a pitfall to this, and that is that the bigger ones have the readings for daily Mass and Sunday Mass, and these bilingual ones tend to have just the reading references. So first reading, Genesis 6:14, Psalm 23, so they don't give you the full reading for daily Mass, but they only give you the full reading in Psalms for the Sunday Mass.
So what did happen to the ones that we used to get?
The paper ones?
Yeah.
Because we had spent the money on the subscription, I wanted to move us to the print ones that we had purchased. I made that decision to get rid of the subscription leaflets so that we would use the common book that we're using across the place. I will own, I forced that transition because I wanted us to use the same resources. Can we get that back? No. No. I want us to be using common resources across our parishes. So I am absolutely open to changing the resource to something that works for us better. And now is the time to be doing that. But I don't want us to have one resource that's at one parish and one resource that's another parish, unless there was something unique. And by unique, I mean we have a Vietnamese community only here and not somewhere else. But our Spanish-speaking communities, I know the cultures are different. I don't want to say that Mexican culture and Guatemalan community cultures are the same, because I know they are not. But we would be using the same Spanish missal or same Spanish resource for both of those communities. And the same Spanish resource that's used at Forks can be the same one that's at, again, Queen of Angels doesn't have an appreciable presence, but Sequim and Port Townsend as well.
Earlier this year, I think it was, but yeah. And Port Townsend did not have the same books. They had something else. They did not have Breaking Bread. They had another hardcover one they were using.
Because they purchased separately from the rest of Clallam County. So we still are staggering that unified purchasing thing. Yeah. Their order went through before our order went through. And so I was stuck with that resource being there. I made changes where I could make changes, but I couldn't make all of the changes universally. But that's the trajectory I'm trying to move us on, is we have a shared resource. That if a Catholic visits a different parish, the book that they see or the resource they see is the same one that they see at their current parish. So part of
September, you'll be making a choice about...
I believe so. I believe it was in September when we had to make that purchasing order with Breaking Bread. My guess is, in all bluntness, I don't think we're going to move away from Breaking Bread. I think we're going to end up getting the Breaking Bread bilingual thing. Primarily because all of our musicians, except for this parish, are using Breaking Bread. So for their music, particularly. I'm not interested in touching the hymnal thing right now. So I know that we're still using the Glory and Praise of Gather. I forget which one it is. I'm not interested in grabbing that bull by the horns right now and talking about music and what we're going to change in music. At some point we're going to have to. At some point we're going to have to go, all right, what resource is going to be our common resource for music? That's the third rail, and it's the third rail at all of our parishes, and I'm not interested in fighting that fight right now. But we will at some point have to go, all right, what will be our common musical resource? Even if we're choosing different hymns. I'm not interested in unifying that, but we're choosing from a similar hymnody at all of our parishes.
So the paper leaflet is gone and it's not
Yes,
coming back.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
It is really confusing to our visitors. I mean, number one, they're really confused because we've got the Glory and Praise and we've got the Breaking Bread, and now we go to this page for a song, and they're getting out the Breaking Bread, and it's not because it's in the Glory and Praise. And then the same when they come into Mass, and they know it's a Spanish Mass, but they can't. It's hard to follow along in an English book when you're at a Spanish Mass.
Well,
it's almost impossible.
And there's definitely two ways we can solve that in the long term and the short term. In the short term, telling people as they come in, here's how to follow along in the Breaking Bread. I mean, that personal bit, and that's a hard thing because the volunteer corps is a hard thing to drum up. But in the very short term, before we buy a bilingual resource, just that personal, hey, here's how it goes. On the music side, I would propose that the solution would be to go, all right, let's start drawing more music, not in the Glory and Praise, but in the Breaking Bread, so that we're using that book. A lot of the hymns are the same. I know what we're facing there, but I want to name that. I will, you know what? Martyrs go straight to heaven. But to be perfectly blunt, something has to give. And it is important that we have a common resource. And it's not like the Glory and Praise books, they're in decent shape, but they've served their time. Like, it isn't like we're throwing away brand new books. They've been here for over a decade, as I understand it.
No.
No.
The blue ones?
No.
When did we purchase them?
Not 10 years. We haven't had this for 10
Probably
years.
5.
Yeah.
5 years?
Yeah.
Just
The other
shortly
thing
before
that's really
COVID.
nice about them, they have it in Spanish. They
I
have
am
English and
very
Spanish.
sorry to hear that.
But no, the English and Spanish, like we sang for the prayer of St. Francis, Pure and some other people got it, we sang in Spanish.
Well,
so
and
it's nice.
Breaking Bread has a lot of the same hymns as Glory and Praise.
But do they have it in Spanish?
Yeah,
too?
they have Spanish. They have Spanish hymns. Yeah,
I've been to parishes though where you have a separate songbook from the missal.
yeah.
It's just
Well,
a
and
matter of-
that would be the next thing, is if we switch to the left-right pages, that one, maybe
But I
then
mean,
we get rid of everything.
Until we get there, we got the Glory and Praise, use it for the songbook, just like I've done now.
But the thing, we
It's on it.
Yeah.
we just need them to announce it.
Yeah,
It's
just
in
need to
that.
say, this is the announcement.
Yeah. I don't mean to make it seem like it's nothing, because it's not nothing to get up and say, we have 3 books. Before you go, know that Blue Book is for hymns, Breaking Bread is for English readings, Spanish Book is for Spanish readings. That's a communication thing and that's an effort thing. That's the very short-term thing. When we order the new missals, getting bilingual missals, when we move to a new hymnal across the whole parish thing, and that's going to be a long discussion, believe me, I know that. And not just because of our own personalities, but because all of the personalities. Every parish has strong feelings about hymns and hymnody. So do I. So do we all, right? So I think that at least after a year, you guys know that I'm ready for the conversation. It'll be very exciting. But I do want to get a bilingual resource that is one book. And that was something that we couldn't accomplish in the time that when I became aware of it, basically. It was like, oh, we have to buy new books. Okay, what are we doing? Well, we have to decide in a week. Okay, let's get the best common denominator that we can. So.
Well, it was just upsetting because we researched, we spent a lot of money to get a book that was perpetual, and then all of a sudden it's like, what?
You're talking about the Glory and Praise.
The Glory and Praise,
Yeah.
yeah. And when we did that,
And we got rid of our covers because
We
we're
did-
going to need them
yeah,
again, and
and
now we
so-
need covers because they're real
because
mouse.
they're falling apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
Well,
was-
the Glory and Praise will stick around for at least a while longer. I don't want you to worry too much about that, but it
And
will eventually run its course.
It seems like if it's running its course that everything's changing, then
They're gonna
why
go
are they
anyway.
changing until that happens? But
The big focus
I
for
understand.
the big focus for me is not the hymnal right now. That's a conversation at a time. The Breaking Bread in English was primarily for the readings, to have the readings, a common reading resource. One of the reasons was especially because we have priests moving around, so we have the common resources, but also because we have parishioners moving around. So the hymnal thing is its own live wire, I recognize that, but that's the reading piece is where at least my attention will be particularly focused.
Just for ease in finding it, because they're the same. I mean, I use the blue book because it's easier to hold. The other, and I don't have thumbs.
Fair enough.
So if we have to stay with the breaking bread, then I would request that we get some kind of cover for them because it's making the church look
ratty,
sloppy and messy, and it's not working for me.
Yeah,
So,
it is a disaster.
Well,
it's just, you know,
so there are a couple things I would say to that. Covers are definitely an option. Talking to your fellow parishioners about treating the books well and having their kids treat it
that's
well.
not an option because they're paper and they bend.
They bend.
They're just,
Tammy, we are using these across all of the parishes, and part of it is the way we treat the books, and we do have a problem, particularly at this parish.
Well, we have a lot of young people. too.
That's where I was going. We have a lot of young folks. I'm not saying I won't buy you covers. I'm not saying no to that. But I do want to push back on the books are not the problem themselves. It is the hands that are handling the books, and particularly little hands. And we have a challenge there because we have a lot of little hands that are not always supervised in the way they need to be supervised. And that's going to be a pastoral challenge because how do we talk to those folks? How do we confront those parents in a way that is kind, in a way that is loving, but also in a way that it says, hey, Your kids are wild and they're destroying these books. Because I can guarantee you that you put those covers on and then the covers will get ripped. The plastic will get torn. It does happen. Maybe not as much as the books
We
do,
had
but
them for years that we were using.
that's fair. But we want to strike at the root of the problem, not just treat the symptoms.
Which part of that is cultural.
I think that people assert that it's cultural, but no, it's not. No, it's not. Part of it is culture in as much as we are not confronting folks because it's a different culture and we don't want to offend folks, and that is good and that is holy. But part of it is also we need to have conversations of, hey, kids running around tearing things up or whatnot. That's something we can talk to people
But
about.
some kids are like free-range chickens, and that's part of a culture.
It's not. I can tell you, I've worked in other parishes with these cultures, and that's not the case.
Okay.
No. Part of it really is just we got to have kind conversations, and not with the kids. We don't parent other people's kids. That's a bad call every time. But building up the relationship with each other.
Okay, I've just going to wind down here in a minute. The other thing we're talking about the parish family, and so we're getting the bilingual missals. The other thing is that can we get a bilingual calendar so we're not having English and Spanish?
They ran out. We wanted to order you mean the parish calendars, right?
The calendars we get for yearly calendars.
Yeah, we ran out. So we have a company that sponsors us to get the calendars.
Well, I know it ran really late last year. So,
when we went to order them, they had run out of them. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to get that this year.
Yeah, yeah. That was a really big. I was really frustrated with that because I was like, hey, why are we ordering English for one parish and Spanish for another, or this kind of thing? And there are bilingual options. Yeah. And I don't know. My understanding is that they ran out, but it might have been that they were later than they should have. I don't know. I don't know the timing piece.
Okay, and then also I think that you put your sheet in the bulletin, Spanish in the pastor letter. But can we get someone to do the translating in there, please? Aberdeen does it. Look at Grace Harbor's bulletin.
Can it be done? Can it be done? Yes. We don't have a bilingual staff member that we can dedicate to that, because that is translating every single week, every single thing. And can it be done? Yes. The immediate answer is yes. Are we capable of doing it? Not right now. And keep in mind that we would have to do one of two things to make that work. Cut the content in half so that there's room to have English and Spanish, which is a reasonable compromise. The Northwest Catholic does this, where they have half English and half Spanish. But the other part is manpower, to get the people who can edit the bulletin and translate it into Spanish. I have one staff member who can translate things into Spanish who's not me, and I'm not going to be doing that because I'm not fluent. And that's my bookkeeper who's not fluent. And she has enough on her plate, as you well know. To have someone to translate into Spanish and then to reformat the bulletin such that it has space for it, it is something that I think will have to be done, but we're not in a place that we can do that.
I want to say that Grace Harbor has actually a Spanish, the important things in Spanish on there. It's not like each thing like we were doing.
I'm not going to deny that it needs done.
We need to get that communication going.
I don't know how to find the people to do it. I mean, that is the hard part right now, is finding people.
For our weekly announcements, I use the translation on the program, on the computer.
Sure.
And we were having Lala translate it so that it was more accurate, and she said, it's accurate. So it's just a matter of cutting and pasting.
Except for once in a while, because when I did a poster, it said that we were going to eat dogs. Because I wanted to serve hot dogs, and so you got to be careful.
That's why you have to have John read it, make sure it's okay.
Google Translate is great until it's not, and you have to have somebody who can proofread it. I mean, we proofread in English already, and it's a double-edged problem. It's the creation/proofing in Spanish, and then it's also the cutting our content literally in half so that we have room for the Spanish. I'm not rebuking the idea. Please understand that. It's getting it off the ground that I don't know that I can. I don't know that we can pull it off.
It's just like I said. It's like the parish family. So we got to deal with it somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, I want our Hispanic people to be able to know what's in that bulletin, and
And another thing.
Guatemala.
Lala's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she moved away.
And she's going to be really good.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
So, Father,
Email Sue.
They do come in a burgundy color, so that would be a better color than getting blue ones like we had before, because the blue books and the blue books.
Email Sue so we can get so Sue can work with John to make it part of our next order. We won't get them for the current breaking bread. We won't bother doing it with the current books. When the next books come in, that would make the most sense to put the covers on. I presume so. The books the books change out every Advent, so we have to make the order before Advent. So they need whatever many months before that. So yeah, Advent is after Thanksgiving sometime, and that's when the new books come in.
They're usually on hand before then, but yeah.
Because I know the books do get a little beat up, but I think it's as much about trying to put them back inside the slot as I don't think people.
Our slots are little.
To the extent they.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to get rid of all those cards.
Yeah.
And then, the two missals. So.
Yeah. Well, and depending on what solution we choose for the readings, we wouldn't necessarily have the breaking breads at all. We would just have the single missalette that's bilingual. And that would actually get changed out more often because those don't get printed annually. Those get printed every quarter. So it's a little more labor intensive, but we would get them. They would only be 3 months. Yes, they'd still get beat up, but I don't know that I would recommend changing them in about any covers.
I was at Sacred Heart this past weekend, and they have the same breaking bread that we have. Their books are in very good condition, but they have longer pews. They're the little shelf where you put the books, they put them in face down. So that protects them and keeps them in good shape.
Sure.
We don't have that much room in ours, and so ours get all crinkled and bent and everything. I don't think it's as much children as it is just we don't have the space or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's my opinion.
I mean, I am happy to have us build a bigger church. It would solve a few problems.
Bigger slots.
Yeah.
And some of them fall out.
My guess is it's not just one thing. My guess is it is the way we handle it. It is also the space that it's in. It is. I mean, it's never just one piece of the puzzle there. So. It's going to be a process, guys, and I am sorry for that because it would be nice to just do the thing, and we do have to take into consideration how does it affect what we're doing with the other parishes, which we haven't had to think about as directly or as considerately is the wrong word because it isn't that we're inconsiderate, but now we have to make decisions that are actually keeping in mind the vision and the plan of all the other parishes as well. That's not super pleasant. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. It would be nice just to do our own thing and go from there. But there are benefits to it as well, in as much as we are having a unified vision. We are having what I hope will be development of things too, where we're progressing in things that we couldn't progress on our own. It is 8 o'clock. I'm happy to stick around, but shall we conclude with prayer?
Mm-hmm. I have a question. Okay. I haven't been to confession since you got rid of my confessional. So how are we I don't know how to do it in a closet. I don't know how to work. And I'm a walker now too, so.
Forgive me, I don't know what confessional you're talking about.
The closet?
Before the change.
Oh, okay.
In the back where the music
Oh.
The old one.
system is.
We went back to the old
Before my time, okay.
one. Yeah.
So what was your question? I'm sorry, I just...
So how are we supposed to use it though? How do you get in and how do you fit it?
Yeah, and she uses a walker all the
Yeah.
time, so that's hard to get in there.
My guess is that you would do what a lot of people do in Port Angeles who can't get in the confessional, is that with Father Ed's counsel and figuring out how to do it, that you would knock on the door of his door if you can't get into the confessional, because not everybody can, and you guys would have a space that you walk over to. I don't know if the sacristy is a good spot, but we use, for instance, in one of the churches in Squim, I've got folks in walkers who just can't get in the confessional because all they have is the confessional. So someone will knock on the door. We have an arrangement where you knock on my door, I pop out, and we walk over to the cry room because it's a big room. I don't know what spaces would be best to use because we also want to guard your privacy. So having it out and open in the church doesn't seem like a prudent idea.
It's pretty private during confession time because
There's nobody there.
I'm not that big a deal. I mean, you gotta confess it to everybody, so you can just sit out in the pews.
My advice, and I don't want to speak for Father Ed in your arrangement, but my advice would be to talk with Father Ed about what would be specific. I'm confident that Father Ed is happy to accommodate, especially physical needs. Yeah. Because those are tighter rooms, and if you've got a walker and got to turn around and back yourself in.
He has never heard my confession.
So have you thought about...
I made sure I went to someone else.
So I just want to remind you that you have 2 priests in the room and the library is really big over there. So you could snag one of us before we go. He could not. You and I could get together and you could keep him from hearing your confession for even longer if you wanted. But we'll have to turn off the recorder for that. So on that note, may I suggest that we do 2 things. That we close with prayer. And Carlos, you have been very good to us in sticking with the English. Do you mind leading us in the Our Father in Spanish? Okay. Well. Padre nuestro, que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas, como también nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en tentación y líbranos del mal. Y que Dios les bendiga, el Padre, el Hijo y el Espíritu Santo. Amen. Thank you guys very much.